What's up, guys? It's been a while. So weight loss drugs, right? So we all know like Ozempic and Retta. And for years, weight loss drugs were kind of like the white whale of the pharmaceutical industry. Everyone knew that there was tons of money to be made, but it was really hard to make a good weight loss drug that didn't kill you or had some crazy side effects. And one of those drugs is what we're going to be talking about today. And there's so much money in weight loss drugs because, there's an entire industry of just weight loss supplements, which I'm sure has probably gone down quite a bit since the invention of peptides. But for a very long time, weight loss supplements were being sold that did literally nothing. And they would come with diets and they come with all this stuff and they none of it did anything. It was all a bunch of bullshit, but people still bought them. Everyone's white middle-aged mom bought that shit and it never helped them. Didn't help them lose a pound. But they still made hella money. But now with Ozempic and GLP-1 drugs, obesity rates in the United States are going down for the first time in like literally ever. So it's crazy. And every week now it seems that there's some study coming out that says Ozempic, cures cancer or, stops Alzheimer's disease or some shit. And it just seems like these things are miracle drugs. And I don't want to throw shade at GLP-1s really at all in this video because, they are great, especially compared to the drug we'll be talking about today. However, I'm not fully convinced that these drugs don't have some long-term consequences that we don't fully understand. And it's going to be a whole thing, 10 years down the line. Because that's what happens with a lot of like miracle drugs like these GLP-1s. Though, honestly, I've looked at the way they work and they seem pretty safe to me. I don't see any immediate, extremely bad things that could happen. The point is with GLP-1s, it's very clear that they work and they work in a manner that's relatively safe. And you're going to see why it's important in this video. So today I want to talk about probably one of the oldest weight loss drugs ever, and arguably like the best, like way better than GLP-1s, way better than anything else we've ever seen. And even though overdosing on this drug means one of the absolute worst deaths imaginable, it's still sometimes used illicitly today. So today I want to talk about 2,4-dinitrophenol, or DNP. DNP is a super interesting compound with some really crazy properties, but I want to kind of look at its history first. An interesting thing about DNP is that it's pretty volatile, actually. It's classified as an explosive in the United States, and it's a precursor to TNT, like, the dynamite TNT. Because of this, it was used quite a lot to manufacture explosives and ammunitions in World War I. And that's kind of where people started first realizing that this thing might be really good at weight loss. French factory workers creating ammunitions for like the war effort reported rapidly losing weight, sweating excessively, and having a fever while they were working, which is, not, I get if I were manufacturing explosives, I'd probably also, be sweating a lot, but this was like an abnormal amount. And it was specifically when they were working with DNP. Well, in the 1930s, this Stanford researcher, Maurice L. Tainter, what a name, he kind of looked over some of these reports of these factory workers, and he decided to look a bit more closely at DNP. So he did a bunch of studies at Stanford, and he determined that DNP could raise the metabolic rate of a human over 50%, like over a 50% increase. Seeing this, of course, the first thing he thought was, oh, I'm going to give this to obese patients and see what happens. And the results were actually really, really good. The average amount of weight loss that his patients were seeing was, over 20 pounds. And this was in a short period of time with very few adverse effects. Now, because this was the 1930s, you didn't have to do like a 10-year-long clinical trial or anything to get a drug approved. You kind of just like threw it out there and just if there were side effects, then you would just kind of find out about them like out in the wild. So like a year after that study with the obese patients, there was like over 100,000 people using it. So that was great. Dude, I wish pharma moved that fast these days, or maybe not, because while the number of deaths due to DNP stayed pretty low, it was, in the single digits. Uh, there's a growing number of people developing cataracts and complete blindness, actually, especially young women due to DNP. And this was back in the 1930s, and cataracts were a lot less treatable than they are today. So people would just straight up just go blind if they had bad enough cataracts. And because of this, I think it was like 2,500 people in like 1936 or something, like developed cataracts directly because of DNP. And it was people, I mean, that was not good, right? So physicians kind of turned away from DNP because of this, and eventually the FDA banned it outright, just citing its danger to people's health in general, which is, I mean, fair, especially if you know a bit more about the substance. So what was actually so bad about DNP, and how did it work? So DNP works by uncoupling oxidative phosphorylation, which is a cellular process that happens in the mitochondria. Normally, cells burn calories from food to produce ATP, which is, what you run on. It's like the gasoline of being, a human. And that's like the body's primary energy fuel, I guess. Yeah, it's like gasoline's a good example, but you take food and you produce and you convert that into ATP, and that's what you actually run on. So DNP acts as a proton leak across the mitochondrial membrane, which basically like stops or slows down or interrupts ATP production. Now, in doing this, it basically deprives the body from being able to like actually convert the calories that you're eating into ATP. So the food just gets burned, and that energy is still being produced, but it doesn't get converted into ATP. So what happens to it? It just ends up turning into heat. And that heat is really important because taking too much DNP can cause hyperthermia, which is like the exact opposite of hypothermia. Hyperthermia is kind of what it sounds like. It's just your body overheating. If you ever had like a really bad fever, that could be classified as hyperthermia. And there's a lot of interesting things to do with it. If you look it up now, people sometimes use it as like a alternative to chemo. It's used in cancer treatments because like cancer cells, their metabolic rate is a lot higher than normal cells. But point is that it's just your body's it's your body overheating essentially. Now, the issue with hyperthermia is that unlike hypothermia, where you just kind of, get warm and that's how you treat it, it's much harder to reduce your body's temperature. Reducing your body's temperature, especially, is a lot harder when, your body's actively fighting against it and producing way more heat than it should be. Because, even if you can cool the outside of your body, your internals will still be quite hot, and that can damage a lot of your internal organs. The human body in general is quite good at shedding heat, but because we're warm blooded, there's a limit to it. Like we're better than other mammals at shedding heat, but like we're not lizards. So it's even if you're in like a ice bath or something and you take a bunch of DNP, you're still probably gonna overheat. So having like a really high body temperature for a prolonged period of time like will just result in your organs shutting down if nothing's done. And at the very least, you can expect some organ damage. And like I said, because DNP is on like a cellular metabolic level, you can't just take a drug to stop it, right? Like basically the only way to treat it is to physically cool you down. And if that doesn't work, then you're kind of shit out of luck. Another issue with DNP is that the dose required to lose weight is quite close to the dose that actually causes death. For reference, a generally accepted safe dose is around 200 milligrams, whereas a lethal dose, depending on your weight, can be as low as a gram. And the issue with DNP as well is that it often stays in your body for prolonged periods of time. So if you are taking quite a bit for a while and then you up your dose, that could cause hyperthermia. Or even if you're at a standard dose, but then you get into a sauna or something, or do a lot of strenuous cardio or something like that, then you can, induce hyperthermia and really cook yourself. I mean, really, the best way to track how close you are to dying from DNP is by just straight up monitoring your body temperature. DNP also has some other side effects besides just heat, like physically heating you up. One of those was like the cataracts, like I said before. It affects about 1-2% of people that take it, which is like pretty high for like a serious side effect like cataracts. It also, like I said before, disproportionately affects young women, which also kind of happens to be like probably the demographic that would most want to use DNP. So that's not good. Uh, and like I said, those cataracts, they come on pretty rapidly, so they can induce complete blindness. DNP also causes bone marrow suppression, which can make it hard to just fight off basic infections. For reference, bone marrow suppression is something that happens to people who get chemotherapy. That's why they need bone marrow transplants. So yeah, really not good. And that's also like not mentioning the like actual organ damage that you're going to be undergoing from, just prolonged elevated body temperatures, even if you're not, cooking yourself alive literally, like just having like a constant fever for, weeks or months is just like really not good for your body. I mean, seriously, imagine just having heat stroke. I mean, that's what hyperthermia is. Like if you're close to, you know, dying from hyperthermia, that's just like a really bad heat stroke. I mean, that's just the worst thing ever. And there's really not much you can do about it. So, I mean, this drug sounds pretty terrible, right? Like, yeah, it's really good at burning fat, but like the side effects do not sound worth it at all. So, no one's really been using it since 1930s, right? Well, it turns out because DNP is such a good weight loss drug, a lot of bodybuilders have been using it, at least in the 21st century, to cut weight before GLP-1 drugs hit the market. Because DNP is relatively unknown outside of bodybuilding circles and it's not scheduled in the US, it was apparently not super hard to get. And it was used enough that there's straight up just like a whole ass wiki on r/steroids telling people how to use DNP and how to not die from using it. Because unlike GLP-1 drugs, which just suppress your appetite, DNP like actively makes your body shed fat faster than normal, making it like really desirable for people who want to lose weight like immediately. If two people of comparable weights like just didn't eat for a week, one took a GLP-1 and one took DNP, the GLP-1 person like would lose a normal amount of weight if they didn't eat for a week. Like there really wouldn't be any change in their weight at all. The only difference would be that they would probably feel less hungry throughout the week. Even though like if you just don't eat first, I mean you're gonna feel hungry. It doesn't matter how many GLP-1s you take. But if one person took DNP, the person who took DNP would lose significantly more weight, even though they also didn't eat anything. They would, because their body's physically burning off their fat no matter what they do. So even though they didn't eat, they would still lose way more weight than the GLP-1 person. So that's kind of like why DNP is known as the best weight loss drug ever, because it doesn't just stop you from eating, like it actively and literally burns the fat off your body. Of course, even with these advantages of it being this amazing weight loss drug, I really don't think it's worth it to take. Uh, just for reference, between 2000 and 2020, so 20-year period, there were apparently 62 reported overdoses from DNP, which like, all resulted in like they were overdose deaths. If you're trying to make weight for a competition as well, like you can't, you simply just can't do other things that would help cut weight when you're using DNP, or at least you can't do it without like seriously monitoring your temperature. Like you can't, do a ton of cardio, and you can't hop in a sauna, and you can't like you have to drink a ton of water when taking DNP because it deprives your body of water. So a lot of people, if they want to make weight, they'll dehydrate themselves. They won't drink any like barely any water because you cut down the water weight, which you just like can't do on DNP. You're just gonna fucking die. So I don't see why, like if you want to lose a ton of weight quickly without doing literally anything, then yeah, it's perfect. If you want to like accelerate the amount of weight you lose in any way, like you're putting yourself at significant risk. I mean, even using DNP like during the summer, if you live in a hot place, is like a risk factor because you go outside for too long and it's just too hot. Like you could very well, pass out, and then that might be it for you. So yeah, for competition, it really just doesn't seem like a great option. Um, I guess unless you're super lazy, because you're basically just giving yourself a fever for a few months, and you can't even do a lot of the actual healthy things that you're supposed to do. I mean, healthy, like dehydrating yourself isn't, but a lot of things that like you would normally do to make weight, like you just can't do. But I guess if you want to lose pounds of fat by literally doing nothing, then DNP might be your option. But in today's age, with things like Retta floating around, I don't see this drug really ever being used. I think there was a short period of time where DNP was like the gold standard for cutting weight, And then everyone figured out that there was just way better options and way safer options. And with how easy it is to get GLP-1s these days, I mean, you can pretty much anyone can buy Reddit. It's not hard. It's not scheduled or anything either. You just get that shit from China. I mean, it's probably coming from the same factory they're making DNP. I just, there's no reason to take this stuff. I don't even, there's probably no one even selling it anymore, honestly. But it was an interesting compound while it was around. And I guess you can, if you have a bunch left over, you can turn that shit into TNT. So, yeah. Well, anyways, that's all I had. I will be posting more videos soon. I do kind of want to actually post videos. I'm going to make some like tier list slop and stuff pretty soon, I think. So we'll see. So yeah, stay posted.